Hey there, I'm doing a sketch of some action figures. I've got a moleskin that I keep that's toy themed, so all the drawings are action figures and stuff, G.I. Joes, Transformers. I haven't worked on it for a while, so I figured I'd crack it open and put some more drawings in there. I've got this fun Batman the Animated Series toy that they put out last year, or maybe the year before. It's got all sorts of accessories and stuff. We're listening to an album by Kelly, one of my favorites. Since most of my artwork is digital, you're probably thinking, can he actually hold a pencil? Does he own any pens or paints? I do. I mostly work on digital now, but I do like to sketch with real materials now and again. I was a big fan of the Batman animated series when I was a kid. Well, I guess I wasn't a kid, I was in middle school. But it was foundational. I loved the style of the characters, I loved the style of the city, I loved the tone of the show. I've always been kind of an artist that seeks geometry in things. And so I loved the way that Bruce Timm sort of distilled all of the crazy Batman characters into sort of simpler, more geometric kind of designs. What's everybody doing this morning? Batman is an incredibly difficult face to get right. He's sort of got this expression on his face that I never know if he's supposed to look smug or angry or clever or what. It's just like, it's such a simple little line underneath the nose of his mask, but it's hard to get right. Professional artists probably obsess about getting Batman just right. went to see Ready Player One last night. I'm not going to talk about the movie, so relax. I read the book last year. I recommend reading the book. I think it's a lot of fun, particularly if you grew up kind of in the same years that I did. There's a lot of recognizable nostalgia in there. Sorry, I'm a little new to Instagram Live. I didn't realize there was a little wave button next to everybody. They need to... Oops, what happened? Sorry about that. Goodness gracious, there's a lot of little people to wave at. Thanks a lot for joining me, you guys. A few years back, I did a drawing a day challenge where I was doing either a sketch in one of these moleskins or some other drawing and posting it every single day. I got through about 5 months worth of drawings, I think, and then just got too busy with other stuff. And I've always meant to return to doing something like that. Drawing every single day is a really good exercise to keep your skills developed, and also just sort of like work through challenging designs. Sometimes it really helps to just switch context and try a different drawing. So warming up with other subject matter is well, it's at least good for me. For example, I mean, drawing Batman doesn't really have the same kind of pressure to depict the likeness of a real person I know. So it's it's not a high pressure subject matter for me. And later today, I'll probably do a couple of portraits, and this was a good way to just sort of, wake up, get my muscles going, and get ready to draw something a little bit more involved later. Punky Steel, this is Kelly. This is an album called Food. It's one of my favorite albums. She collaborated with some of the guys at Ninja Tune, and so this album has some really beautiful sort of jazzy orchestral accompaniment. It's a really great album. I recommend it. Batman is one of the few valid times you can draw lots of pouches on a comic book character, and it doesn't come across as a Rob Liefeld thing. I like to draw with a 4B pencil. It's in a lead holder from Statler. This has long been the best option for me for sketching with. The 4B is kind of buttery and soft, so I can sketch with it with not a lot of friction on the page. It's not too scratchy. It doesn't make the paper skip or anything like that. Finding the lead's a little tricky. It's not too bad lately, but there have been times when the local art stores don't carry a lot of lead that soft. So I go back and forth with exactly what I like to sketch with. Time to change the record over. When I sketch, I don't think too much about the composition. I just try to get the details going and find something interesting about the subject matter to draw. You know, give it a purpose. With Batman, I think, you know, some of the fun is in exploring all the design that went into this character from all angles. You know, I think they really took a chance on Bruce Timm's designs because they're very specific to his aesthetic, and I'm sure the animators at first were kind of like, you know, I got to make this thing move in all directions, but I think as the series matured, that aesthetic really caught on with fans, and people really, I'm sure the creatives at Warner Brothers really, in the end, enjoyed it. This is one of my desert island albums. I wouldn't be upset if I was stuck on a desert island with Kelly food, as long as I had working electricity and a record player. Getting there. When I draw action figures, it's kind of funny because I'm not actually drawing Batman. I'm drawing, you know, a plastic replica of Batman, and so I do want little details like the joints in his arms and the little tiny like screws that attach his legs to the body to show up in the drawing. I want it to be clear that this is, you know, this is a toy. It's not, I'm not trying to draw the real thing. And it's funny, when I draw movie versions of superhero characters, I tend to draw based on the really high fidelity figures that they put out from Hot Toys and things like that. I mean, I don't own them, but if I go looking for costume details, usually you can see the costume details a lot clearer in the Hot Toys photos, the promotional photos they take. It's great for the Marvel costumes and stuff like that, which get uber complicated. And, you know, in shots from the movie, you can't really see all the little details and the you know, the buckles and the straps and all the little corners of the costume that you might have to work into a design. most of the action figures and toys that I own are from the mid-'80s. I was born in '79, so I was really big into toys by, you know, '83, '84. Lots of He-Man figures. Thundercats. It's funny, in retrospect, some of these shows only lasted a single season, so I probably only watched, you know, the cartoon for, you know, a matter of months, and yet all these years later I look back on them as if they're these really super well established properties. But some of them were just in and out real fast. Mask, Legionnaires, no, sorry, Visionaries, not Legionnaires. I've got a bunch of those back there. But okay, so when I get to the point where I want to ink, I use, let's see, what do we got here? I like these Statler pens. I used to have Pigma Microns, but I always broke off the tips of the Pigma Microns too easily. Maybe I was just using them when I was a little too young. But the Statler ones I dig. I can't always find them locally, but they go back and forth. There's a couple of major art stores in Victoria, and so usually at least one of them is carrying these. And I like to draw with a 03. I also really like these brush pens from Pentel. They're pigmented, so they're really nice and black, and they don't fade. And same thing goes for the ink from the Statler. It's pigmented, so it's pretty durable. I prefer inking just about everything I draw. I don't usually leave much as pencil. Inking is usually where I kind of galvanize the design. It either works really well with ink, or I start over and take a different approach. Pencil kind of lies to you when you're an artist. Pencil's like, you know, this is pretty good. It's, you know, it's starting to come together, and you know, the fuzziness of the lines, and you know, the potential to depict something is always kind of feels like it's there with pencil. Whereas with ink, that's where you really have to decide like exactly where that line sits, exactly how thick it is, exactly how you know, how jittery it is and all that kind of stuff. And so it's at the inking stage where things get kind of brutal. I throw away a lot of partially done drawings that just aren't really like what I want them to look like. I mean, I recycle them, because I'm a good person. So I have a bit of a timid approach to inking. I get worried about making things look too dark. So I tend not to add as much shadowing as I should, which is kind of a flaw in my style. But when I'm drawing in this action figure themed sketchbook, I try to, because I'm drawing a 3D object that's sitting right in front of me and I can really see how the light falls on it, I try to get more decisive about exactly what the shadows are, and I try to take more of a chance to depict the shadows faithfully. It's easier with something like this than with the human face, where if I add harsh shadows to the human face, it's going to make somebody's portrait look like brutal and harsh and overly dramatic. I have a great appreciation for artists that can draw with really stark lighting and make people look, flattering in that particular style. It's really difficult. When I finish this sketchbook full of toy stuff, I'm probably going to give it to the local vintage toy store, and they can figure out what they want to do with it. The owner might want to keep it themselves, they might want to auction it or something. Okay, that's the end of that side.
When you're walking through the door, you smell just like the sun. Give you everything you want, 'cause baby you're one. Your brothers and your face, past how the running late. What is true, I tell my friends. Being with you just feels so baby. You got this feeling like a holiday. Ooh, baby. Here in your arms is like a getaway. Ooh, baby. You got this feeling like a holiday. Ooh, baby. Here in your arms is like a getaway. You're the best I've ever done. Like a winner, like I won. I couldn't love you more if I tried to go for tons. I used to say I run, but for this I know I stay. 'Cause for real, it's the look on your face every time you say my name. Lately, you got this feeling like a holiday. Ooh, baby. Here in your arms is like a getaway, getaway. Ooh, baby. You got this feeling like a holiday. Ooh, baby. Here in your arms is like a getaway. Ooh, baby.
Using a brush pen is fun because the tip is kind of like, well, it's like a paintbrush, and you can kind of go quickly from like detail work to big fill spaces with the same implement, which is sort of how I like to work. It allows me to sort of taper off my line mid-stroke, and it's the one thing I have trouble trying to replicate in a digital drawing right now, is getting that nice sort of brush tip shape with the stylus. Everything else is pretty easy to do in digital. It's just that the shape of the tip of the brush at the beginning and the end of your lines that takes a lot of fussing with the calibration settings. I've had a much better experience with Procreate. Procreate, the brush settings seem a lot more intuitive compared to working with Photoshop.
It's nice to hear your voice again. I've waited all day long, even wrote a song for you. It's strange the way you make me feel. With just a word or two, I'd like to do the same for you. It's nice to hear you say hello. And how are things with you? I love you. But every single time to know. An office job to do while I'm here writing songs with you. Strange how far God can change a day. Take you away, away from the feeling of being alone. Bless the telephone. It's nice the way you say my name. Not very fast or slow, just soft and low. The same as when you tell me how I feel. I feel the same way too. I'm very much in love with you. Strange how phone call can change your day. Take you away, away from the feeling of being alone. That's the telephone.
Now, if I make a bad decision with the black shading and the black lines, a couple of quick white gel pen corrections help fix things. It's tough with a character like Batman who's got shadows and he's got sections of his costume that are black. Some artists really leverage that effectively, and then someone like me who rarely draws Batman has to really think about how I'm gonna shade this. That's pretty much where I want it. Add a little tweak right here to the cape.